It's disgusting to see people, put into such a horrible situation. The fear that's been created. It's so unfair to Asian New Yorkers. We know where it started. We know very painfully it started in Washington, D.C.
Oh, my God. Now we know the details of that heinous beatdown of an elderly Asian woman. De Blasio looks like an even bigger idiot than before. But the lessons learned from this are bigger than that of a failed politician like him. This brutal attack is indicative of the failures of progressive policy. First, the suspect in this case shouldn't have been on the streets in the first place. He was somehow paroled in 2019, despite the fact that he stabbed his own mother to death back in 2002. Every parole for violent felons is a hallmark of the new left, not the right. The second lesson doesn't relate to the man who committed this violent attack, but the men who stood by and watched it happen. Now, many of the same people outraged that the bystanders did nothing are the same ones who are forever protesting this idea of toxic masculinity, okay? It turns out that when you reduce men to pathetic and shamed beings, they act like pathetic and shamed beings. Joining us now, Tucker Carlson, host of Tucker Carlson Tonight, as well as Tucker Carlson Today on Fox Nation. Tucker, can I do your voiceover? I want to do Tucker Carlson Today. Can I do that, please?
I think you'd be better at than I am. I'm not a voiceover genius.
That.
I'm so glad you said that about toxic masculinity, and then when you reduce people to husks, to fearful husks, that they behave that way. You're exactly right. Someone should have grabbed that guy and stopped the assault or held him for cops, but nobody did because people are afraid to intervene. I mean, this is what happens when you strip people of their ability to defend themselves or defend others. It's really sad.
And I think, Tucker, part of it is like snitches get stitches, too. Like, if you turn in some other guys in certain parts of certain neighborhoods, then you could get yourself in trouble or get arrested if you do something wrong. I think everybody is living in fear of getting sued, running foul of the authorities, or being called a racist or worse, if there's anything worse than that. Everybody's afraid.
No, that's totally right. And too afraid to say what everyone knows, which is de Blasio's explanation of this is just it's a galling lie. It's absurd. He doesn't believe it. He's lived in a city for 30 years. Anyone who's lived in a city knows exactly what's going on. This is not new. It didn't start with the last administration or the preceding 10 administrations. This was the basis of the 1992 riots in Los Angeles. Al Sharpton made a career for decades intimidating and threatening Asian business owners. I mean, this is a very well-trod path. We know exactly what this is about. I think the tensions are primarily economic, but they're also cultural. And to blame this on white supremacy or Trump, it's like it's insane. And nobody stands up to say that. Everybody who lives in a city knows what this is. Everybody does.
Now, I want to get your thoughts, Tucker, on something that kind of flew a little bit under the radar today. It's a rather telling comment from Secretary of State Tony Blinken.
We're not trying to, for example, contain China or keep it down. What we are about is standing up for basic principles, basic rights, and a rules-based international order.
Tucker, your thoughts on that posture with China?
I mean, have you been to the Caribbean recently or Africa? I mean, China is colonizing the entire third world. Southeast Asia, I mean, these are all functionally economic satellites of mainland China. We've ignored this. I mean, the entire road system in, I don't know, pick a place, St. Croix, is paid for by the Chinese, the Bahamas. China has been completely uncontained, and there's probably no containing it now. But you'd think someone should acknowledge this. I mean, if you're against colonialism, and our universities teach us that we have to be against colonialism, why is no one noticing Chinese colonialism, which is just galloping across the globe, totally unimpeded by anybody, including the joke of a Secretary of State, the failed rock star, Tony Blinken, who's, speaking of craven, speaking of weak husks, that would be Tony Blinken.
Did you see him kind of shaking when China's delegation just looked at him and said, basically, you guys are systemically racist. Why are we going to listen to you? You guys don't even like yourself. He's like shaking. He didn't seem to. He didn't seem like, mommy, come get me now.
No, when they're reading BLM talking points against him, and he's like, "You're right." I mean, look, they're not stupid. They don't hate themselves. They know that our leaders do hate themselves and hate the country they represent and try and lead. And they use that to their advantage. Why wouldn't they? I mean, if you were trying, to maintain hegemony over a lot of the world, you would use your opponent's weaknesses against him. It's basic judo. And the fact that our leaders don't even see that this is happening, the racism thing is such kryptonite to them. No wonder the Chinese, you can't kind of blame the Chinese for this, can you? I'd do the same thing if I was in a negotiation. Oh, you're racist. Okay.
Hey, Tucker, I want to move to your new show on Fox Nation, Tucker Carlson Today. Now, you had a really cool interview with Michael Moss, who is this, whoever doesn't know him, he's this Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, and he's written a lot on addicting foods. Watch.
Yes.
So the people engineering, marketing, positioning these products don't eat their own products, either because they know better health-wise or they're concerned about losing control. I think that's one of the difficult aspects of this, is kind of knowing who's vulnerable to overeating these products and when, and how can they deal with that?
Well, don't we see the same thing, Tucker, with the big tech CEOs who many of them strictly limit their own kids' screen time, but they're happy to saturate our kids with it?
That's exactly right. The country's really unhealthy. It has nothing to do with COVID. I'm not lecturing anyone. I've certainly gained and lost hundreds of pounds over the years. I love Fig Newtons to my great detriment. I like crappy food. I always have. I probably always will. So I know firsthand that there is a compulsive part of the experience of eating these kinds of foods. Like, you eat an apple, you don't feel like eating 6 more apples. You eat an Oreo, you'll eat the whole bag. Why is that? Because these foods have been engineered by big companies to make them addictive, in the same way that tobacco products were, which, by the way, I also enjoyed. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just noting this is a huge story. It's transforming the country physically, and everyone is ignoring it. And I'm not sure why. We shouldn't ignore it. It's a big deal if you get type 2 diabetes at 35. Like, that's not a small thing for anybody. So why are we pretending it's not happening? It is happening, and people are getting rich from it.
And Tucker, finally, do you think the Fauci, Birx, public health expert, media, medical cartel, do you think it's kind of over, that people are beginning to see what this really was?
I think the whole thing is over. I think the whole facade is just shattered. Like, nobody, if you don't believe the lies, then you don't believe any of the lies. I mean, that's why we did a segment like that, because people all of a sudden are realizing, wait a second, maybe everything they're telling me is not on the level. Maybe the food pyramid's wrong, which of course it is. And so I actually don't think they're convincing anybody. They're just trying to make people obey. Just read the catechism. Here's the bumper sticker, recite it or else. They're not trying to make a case for rational people to buy into. Like, we're way past that.
Tucker, congrats on the new show. We will be watching.
Thank you, Laura.
And it's great to have you on the Ingraham Angle. And don't forget, sign up for Fox Nation Now. And and you get to get this, plus you get exclusive access to other original content, events, your favorite personalities like Tucker on any device. So use the promo code Tucker. You get a 30-day free trial. Tucker, you better come back soon.
Done. Laura Ingraham, I'm honored to be here.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Great to see you tonight.